Hello, I'm Jared.
And I'm Ebony, and this is his
And hers, Warhammer
Warhammer
40k.
40K.
Yay. We are here to discuss Era of Ruin, the Siege of Terra anthology, the very end to the Siege of Terra.
We're wrapping it up.
Long time coming, dozens and dozens of books. 10 books, I think, in the Siege of Terra, if you are including the novellas. And this is just kind of like... it's a capstone, kind of.
I don't know that I would call it that.
That's how it was marketed.
Okay.
But it's kind of just an extras for the most part.
Yeah.
A few epilogues, a few bits and pieces. Yeah, we'll give our thoughts on Era of Ruin.
And all the stories included in Era of Ruin?
Right,
Yeah.
so we'll go through the stories one by one. Full spoilers for these discussions.
Are there any spoilers?
Of course.
I guess.
Yes, there are spoilers.
Fine, you could be spoiled, I guess.
Yeah. Ebony never cares about either taking or giving spoilers, so she's terrible for that.
Sorry in advance.
So I decided we're not going to have a spoiler section at all. We're just going to get into it one by one.
But we should start with the introduction, because I had strong feelings about the introduction.
About the introduction?
Yeah, just because, okay, yes, there were named characters in the introduction that we care about, but I remember being in bed reading the introduction, and it's, blah, 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 and they're like, we're going to wrap up all of these important parts about these 5 characters that you're just dying to know what happened to them, and I thought, who are these people? Like, I recognized, 2 of them. I was like, never heard of that dude, or that dude, don't care where he is. So I feel like, while there are some characters that I was like, man, I really needed that closure, that ending of their story, there were also, at least 4 characters where I was like, I'd never thought about that person again.
Yeah. Which brings us to our first story, Angels of Another Age. Which features 2 of those characters, I believe, Galleon and Baron.
Baron, yeah.
Yes. They're both blood angels, if I recall. And I also didn't remember them at all once I started this story. So I did look it up. They featured in part 1 of The End and the Death, literally 1,000+ pages ago at this point. And it's just kind of an okay story about a Marine falling to the Black Rage.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
There's some pretty writing, but it's nothing that we haven't seen before. It's certainly nothing if you've read any Blood Angels, M41 Blood Angel stories.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, okay, why?
Yeah.
Why did I need to know where these guys are or what they're doing?
Yep.
Yeah.
This could have been any one of the dozen little fragment sections that was in The End and the Death.
Definitely could have been in there. Yeah.
Yep. So, not strong feelings on that one.
Yep.
Up next, we have Fulgurite. Fulgurite, this one I do consider an actual capstone story, bringing the Barthuza Nerek storyline that went through Unremembered Empire, the 3 Salamanders books. Nerek was a relatively interesting character. He's like a semi-loyal word bearer who still believes in the God Emperor and is like a sniper and one of the Vanguard squad, and he's out here trying to kill Lorgar. So he basically sneaks his way onto Terra among the traitor forces, goes off on his own, and is on the hunt for Lorgar. Now, if we remember the book Nemesis, any premise that involves murdering a major character is not going to end well. So I kind of went into it with that mindset.
Okay, you knew it was going to not end well for him. Okay.
But we get this nice scene where he meets some loyal forces, I guess.
So, yeah.
Just like loyal human forces.
Yeah.
Who had gone AWOL and are just trying to survive.
Yeah. They're like, we'll follow you.
Yeah. And he gets this little entourage. They find some shelter. They go in. Turns out it's a Fabius Biolab. So they have to fight off a bunch of his
constructs,
creations and such. And it's not bad. It's not the Fabius Bile. It's certainly no Josh Reynolds Fabius Bile.
Fair.
But it was okay. And then it has the most bullshit ending of any story I have read in quite a while. I was floored by this, and not in a good way.
Oh, you don't love a cliffhanger?
No, I would barely call it a cliffhanger. I would call it a conclusion that has been done 3 other times already. For those who want to know what happens, he gets stabbed by Erebus. Just like every other,
character.
Plucky loyalist character out there.
Yes. But he might not be dead. As per the very last line, he could be alive.
Listen, I'll give Nick Kime a lot of credit. His more recent stories have been much better than a lot of his older ones.
Okay.
But this...
You did not love it.
God, I hated that.
You did not.
I was so pissed about that. It's like, do something interesting. Okay. Yeah. Moving on. We have Fragments, All We Have Left by Dan Abnett.
Yeah.
What do we think about this one?
It's okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. This is the one with the Sister of Silence.
Sister of Silence, yep.
Yeah, so it's pretty writing and interesting. This Sister of Silence, Aphany, is holding some last bastion with a bunch of Imperial Guard, and she is just kind of inspiring them with stories of the good old days of Sisters of Battle and Custodians. Right. And like it's just like battlefield camaraderie. Yeah. And I didn't hate it. I didn't have any strong feelings.
It's in the name, Fragments. It could have been another one of the Death Fragments that Dan Abnett
for sure
couldn't squeeze in to the 1,000 pages that he had to work with.
Yeah. I thought it was fine, and I liked her character. I liked the Imperial Guardsmen around her. It just wasn't...
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I didn't mind it, and Sisters of Silence are relatively interesting.
Yeah.
Up next is Ex Libris by John French. A little Ahriman story. I
love Ahriman.
He is attempting to escape from where we last saw him in the
library, with
Emperor's personal libraries.
Kyril Sinderman.
Right.
And that retinue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At this point, the palace and the Vengeful Spirit have kind of merged due to all of Horus's nonsense. Horus is dead, and the warp is collapsing around him. And because of all of his sorceress intentions and whatnot, he's basically locked in place, trying to escape the gravity in quotes, of this collapse. What's kind of weird about it is he's talking with a vision of Amon, and like calls him his like true brother. This doesn't really make sense to me, because Amon not only isn't his brother, Amon is not even dead. Like, I thought this would be like a hallucination of,
I guess it could be a hallucination, but I thought he said, "You died."
Right.
I thought he said out loud that Amon was dead, and
he definitely is not.
Okay.
Like, he features quite prominently in the Ahriman series.
Which is obviously after this.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Ahriman series has other problems. It has problems that were not John French's fault.
Okay.
This is his fault.
Okay.
Basically other people, Graham McNeil, wrote something that kind of ruins the Ahriman series.
Okay. So there's a screw up in the continuity, and okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it in that I always like to see Ahriman.
Yep.
I think that the archive collection, like the Emperor's Library, is super cool. I always want to spend more. It was one of my favorite parts in the like End in the Death, like getting to spend time in that library.
Which is hilarious, because you told me you didn't remember this story at all.
Yeah, because nothing happened. So my major pet peeve with this whole series of stories is that I find myself towards the end of them going, and like, yes, these people exist. What is that? They all feel very much like the fragments in The End of the Death, in that there's no closure. It's just like a snapshot of what this character, whether you remember them or not, is doing at this instance of time.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, I do enjoy hearing about Ahriman. It's just that if I never read this story, it wouldn't change how I felt about the collective and Ahriman being there, and it doesn't add anything.
Right. I feel... For someone who was reading these books, like collected all of them at once and went straight from one to the next and was not waiting months in between each book,
Maybe
maybe this would feel,
like more of an ending.
more of an ending. But coming back to it, there's a lot of like, oh yeah,
That guy.
that guy, that was happening,
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel
work. Yeah.
as well. Up next, we have System Purge by Gav Thorpe.
Which was actually one of my favorite ones.
Yeah?
Oddly. Okay, so the individual characters didn't mean anything to me. I don't remember that White Scar Space Marine Tetsu. I don't think we ever met the Adeptus Mechanicus characters that are there before. So the story is that the White Scars have been holding the Lionsgate spaceport, but some sort of like chaos mechanicum virus is loose in it.
So we did see that being released in the first wall.
Okay.
When the Iron Warriors first assaulted it.
Okay.
But
so this was something that happened directly after that we just missed then.
What do you mean?
Like purging this virus and getting the Lionsgate back
This
on.
is happening after the siege is over.
Oh, everything's over.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so they go in there and they have to get rid of this sort of evil admech virus, and basically they have a fight with Adeptus Mechanicus constructs. There are two magi. One of them is Magi. I like magi.
It is wrong.
Okay, fine. We'll agree to disagree. And one of them is evil and turns on the other one, and the Space Marine has to save the sort of like little junior dude. They like clear this virus, and it just is relatively exciting after what I felt like was a bunch of just like, see these people at this place.
We do get, I think, one of the first obliterators. Obliterators are like a famous chaos unit in modern 40K. That are like a tech virus that grows in you type of thing. So that was interesting. For the most part, I didn't think much of this story while I was reading it. I do not think anything of it now that I finished it.
It just is the one that stands out the most to me from the book.
Okay.
That and the next one that we'll talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
So the next one is After the Dawn, the Darkness by Guy Haley. This one
does feel like an end. It is an ending.
This one finishes Katsuhiro's story.
Yeah.
And it is so satisfying.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, was this missing from the end and the death? I'm
wanted this. Yeah.
So glad we got Katsuhiro, who we've been following for like more than 3/4 of the siege.
Most of the siege, yeah. And the baby he's got.
Right. Seeing sort of the Ultramarines trying to
put some order on the recovery action, right?
To clean up the mess, to give people jobs, to give people food. It still feels grimdark. And I think that's what I really like about it, is most people always assume the Ultramarines is like very bright and very orderly and things function efficiently. It's like things are functioning as efficiently as they can here. And it's still incredibly depressing and brutal and grim.
Yeah, like people are fighting each other for their ration cards to get food. Everyone is getting randomly assigned jobs and moved around. And in the meantime, Katsuhiro is holding on to this baby because he got that baby during the Siege of Terra, and he is responsible for this child. And when people see the child, obviously it moves them. It's the only child many people have seen for months and months since the siege started. So it's a big deal. And then we get to see Katsuhiro like form a relationship with a lady who also cares about the child. He's so used to like
Elantra.
Holding on to this baby and not letting him go, that like he has to go off to work, so he gives her the baby, and now they're co-parenting, and it's adorable. And he finally gets out of his like terrible work situation by finding the White Scar who gave him that baby. Whose name I forget, but was a main character in Katsuhiro's story. And so he finds him, and they make a break for it, which I don't know where they're taking him. Oh, at the end he says where he wants to go. He wants to go back to where he's from. Right. So Katsuhiro and his newly found wife and their baby, this Space Marine who helped him save that baby, helps them escape their work camp, and they're going to go back to where Katsuhiro's people are from in Terra and try and rebuild them. Shiben Khan, that's right.
Takes them up, they get in a javelin, and they fly off into the sunset.
Yeah, it's great.
It's just nice.
Yeah, it's the right kind of closure.
It is exactly what was needed to finish off
I loved it.
Katsuhiro's story.
Yeah.
So that is a highlight for me.
Yeah.
Next we have Homebound.
The other one that does a good conclusion of a story
by Chris Wright
that you needed and wanted and should have been in the main siege, really. So this story is about Ilya Ravelan, who's been the advisor to the Great Khan and to the White Scars throughout the entirety of the siege and before the siege. And she's great. She's just like their like friendly, cozy, badass grandma. I think the last time we saw her, they were holding in like a bunker underneath the palace while the emperor went to fight Horus, right? And it was like the, critical mass moment. We're either going to lose or we're not. And so they're in this bunker in the dark and the lights are off and they're mounting all the defense that they can, but everyone expects to die. And that is after the Khan is wounded and he's brought back to the palace, that she's continued to be a part of this fight while they try and take care of the Khan. And so she comes out of this bunker. They're not dead. They've won. And they're like, okay, Sue, what do you want to do? And she's like, I would like to leave.
I will say there's a really great scene where she gets to talk to the Khan as he's recovering. And I feel this is really important because as someone who knows the Scouring era lore, it is nice to see that the Khan is really just a shell of who he was before.
Yeah.
And I don't feel, knowing the events that are going to happen, he ever really recovers from that.
Yeah. Yeah. She talks to him in this story, but he's not awake yet.
Oh,
right?
He's awake. Yeah. But he is absolutely awake. And it is not him. Let me
I feel like I don't remember that happening. I remember her talking to Shiben Khan as she's about to leave, because she says that she's tired and this war has been going on and she feels like she's given all she can give and that it's time for the White Scars to go on without her. But, they're going to be asked to do a lot as the recovery action happens. She has a great line where she's like, you're going to get to meet all the Primarchs. She tells Shiben Khan, because now he's in charge of the White Scars. And she's like, I would be wary of Gilliman. He's a planner.
The Khan is awake.
Okay.
Kind of reply, I walked strange paths. I saw the hidden realm. For a time I was part of it. I was in it. I searched for him, my brother. And when I couldn't find him, I knew the end had come. So I had to come back. It's all about Horus. I am not what I was.
He's definitely not going to be the same.
Nothing can be the same now, Sage. Nothing. All the more so for those who have crossed the boundary. The boundary, life and death, the fixed border that had been ruptured by the forces unleashed on this world. Once a breach had been established, it would be hard to close again. She found herself wanting to ask much more. What he'd seen, where he'd traveled to, what that meant for the future of them all. Now, what happens post-heresy, and I don't recall the specific amount of time that passes, is the Khan chases a band of Drukhari into the webway.
Okay.
And is never seen again.
I was going to ask what happens to him. Okay. So he disappears. He
disappears along with the entire first company.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
Of the White Scars, yes.
Okay.
This is a Scouring era event.
Okay.
Lehman Russ will also leave in a similar way.
Okay.
Not into the webway, but just
disappear. Okay.
Yeah. Side note on that, each of so post-heresy, most people don't know, White Scars do have dreadnoughts. When a White Scar is entombed, they are named one of the legionnaires that was part of that first company that left with the White Scar, because neither one of them will ever feel the winds of Chagoris again.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I found that to be fairly poetic.
It's very on brand for the White Scars.
Right.
Yeah, so she says after she speaks to the Khan and then she speaks to Sheben Khan, like, they're like, tell us what to do. And she's like, I'm going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the part where she's like, be wary of Gilliman. He's a weirdo and a planner. She's not wrong. He is a weirdo and a planner. But she wants to go back to where she's, like, where her people are from. And so he gives her Sojuk, who's
Yep.
going to take her in a ground
Yep.
car back to where she's from. But they
That's-
have this really sweet moment where he holds her hand and tells her that she's going to be remembered and she's super important.
Sojuk is a character who
Yes.
has been in other books,
Yeah.
but not prominently.
No, not
this
really.
is by far the most prominent he's
Yeah, and it's the first time we get to see, I think, in the post Siege happening, other than the fragments that are at the end of the End and the Death, like what Terra looks like. Right there, driving across Terra, there are like loose, wild chaos dogs chasing them. There's like bandits. They might occasionally come across a damaged chaos space marine that Sojuk has to fight, and they finally make it back to her, what is her house that she grew up in years ago that sold, and they get into a fight with a chaos space marine. Sojuk gets injured, and Ilya Ravelan ends up dealing what ends up being the death blow of this chaos space marine, and it's a big deal. But she is super badly injured, like she has internal bleeding. Sojuk knows that she's gonna die, and so he tells her that like this deed that she's done is this huge thing, and they're gonna write stories about it and talk about it forever, and it just is really sweet and moving. And she dies, and he buries her on her family's land, and then I assume goes back to the White Scars, but you don't get to see that at the end. And I feel like that's a character arc that I really wanted the end of.
While I found this story to be very poetic and beautiful, I kind of ran out of steam on it.
It is really long. That is its one, I think,
You know,
detraction. It's really long.
As much as I liked Ilya Ravelan as a character,
Yeah, I loved her.
I got her for the 2 White Scars books, for a chunk of the Siege.
Yeah.
I was kind of done
You had
with
enough.
her,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I missed her because I love the interaction that she has with Space Marines. I think I always like watching a Space Marine and a standard human interact, especially one that isn't like, super overawed by the presence of Space Marines and Primarchs. So I really like her character. It's kind of like Lotara Saren for me. Like, I enjoy that interaction.
Yeah, I like Lotara more.
Okay,
Than I do Ilya.
yeah.
I feel like she has more presence.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. She killed a Space Marine in this book right before she died, so I think she has a lot of
I
presence.
think Lotara hasn't killed Space Marines.
I'm sure, but like, I don't know. I enjoyed it, but yeah, it's one detraction is that it's perhaps 300 words too long, easily. Like, I think I read it for like 5 days at night, and I kept being, this is the end, right? And it wasn't. But yeah, it's in my top 3 of this anthology for sure.
Yep, that is fair.
Okay.
And lastly, we have The Carrion Lord of the Imperium by Aaron Dembski Bowden. And if you are familiar with any of the community discussions around 30K, or the Horus Heresy, or the Siege of Terra, boy, does this one feel like he's speaking directly to the audience.
You really loved this one, and I was like, who is this custodian?
Okay. The character, so the story is primarily around Diocletian, who was one of the main characters of Master of Mankind. Now, at this point, we read Master of Mankind probably over 5-6 years ago, 7, maybe even 8 years ago. I don't remember the specifics.
And I have an internal brain purge happening. Like, I gotta get rid of some information to make room for new.
Ebony will pretty much only remember the last 2 books, maybe 3 books that she has read. At which, and in terms of time, that's probably about 6 weeks max.
Unless I happen to pick up that book by accident and try to start it again from scratch, and then for 2 weeks I feel like I might be psychic. I'm like, man, I'm really guessing what's coming, and then halfway through I'll go, you definitely read this book before.
So Ebony does not remember Diocletian at all.
I'm sorry.
Not really that important, if I'm honest.
Okay, good.
The important parts of this, I would say, are we get tremendous, is it pathos around the culture of the Custodes.
Yeah, I definitely think you get a lot of that, which I don't remember learning anywhere else.
It didn't really
It doesn't
exist
happen.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get to see the first a flashback to the first time a custode. I know it's custodies, but I hate saying that. First time one of them died,
Yeah.
and what kind of funeral rituals would they have, and how the emperor let them decide that,
Yeah.
what they wanted to do with that. We get a great scene of him post heresy walking through the imperial palace after the rise of the imperial cults, the rise of the Adeptus Ministorum,
Yeah.
and how the palace has changed to accommodate all of the religious iconography.
Yeah.
How the Sisters of Silence have been just completely downplayed or just purged entirely because they are seen as witches.
Yeah.
They're seen as soulless abominations by the church.
Yeah.
And this was a thing that in the codexes is talked about a little bit, is why weren't the Sisters of Silence around post heresy? And it was mentioned, it's also mentioned in the other Adeptus Custodes book that we read.
I don't remember.
Emperor's Legion. Yes.
Yeah.
There's some scenes about the purging on Luna and what happened there and how they had to flee. But we really get to see it in the Imperial Palace. Yeah. And I like that a lot because I don't think people truly understand how badly they were beat down and wiped out.
Yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was for me, which was just sort of insight into the culture of custodians and what it's like to be with the Emperor and how it's different post this time when they can't be with the Emperor but are apart from Astartes. It just, their culture is unique and we don't get a lot of that. So I appreciated that.
I marked out a few passages that I found particularly interesting. So a common discussion that was mentioned years ago in one book, and people seem to hold to it as dogma, is that the Primarchs are each a piece of the Emperor, are a chunk of him. And I'm very glad to see that this pretty blatantly goes against that.
Yeah.
What we get instead is that, let me see... There was no division of soul stuff, no imbuing of the Emperor's attributes into the gestating monsters that thought they were his sons. Stories have always simplified the nature of gods and heroes by telling tales of children inheriting this virtue or that flaw from their divine sires and mares. The most evident and crucial divergence between my king and his creations is thus. The Emperor existed for unification, to unite the lost worlds of humanity, to unite an imperium in echo of the human race's lost interstellar empire. Was this tendency towards infighting because the Emperor had sliced away sections of his spirit and gifted them to his creations? Were they spiritually, fundamentally incomplete? No, I believe the opposite. They were perfectly complete. The Emperor succeeded too well in his undertaking. Each of them embodied their creator in something close to his entirety. Each of them possessed the same messianic urge for absolute unity that the 10,000 sought in our king. They didn't fight amongst themselves because the Emperor left them incomplete. They hated one another because each of them was an emperor.
Yeah.
And given what we know of the Emperor's personality, I love this.
Yeah.
Because it makes perfect sense.
I also like the idea that the custodians kind of think of the Primarchs as monsters, like the way that standard humans can think of Astartes and Primarchs as sort of weird abominations and being aberrant, that the custodians think that way about Primarchs. Like, what are they? Right?
Now, I will say, custodians as a faction, I find more interesting in modern 40k than in 30k. This is basically the only faction I consider this to be the case. The main reason being, what we're seeing now, for the most part, is shared by most custodians, which is that Space Marines are a mistake.
Yeah.
The Primarchs are a mistake.
Yeah.
And the collapse of humanity is
because you made
100%
them.
their fault.
Yeah.
By M41, we've been reading the Dawn of Fire series, we see a more varied set of viewpoints.
Yeah, there are
know?
definitely custodians who are like, I hate them, this is a bad idea. And there are definitely custodians who are more on board with like Astartes and Primarchs. So
Right.
it's interesting.
Now, to finish off this book, I will say we also get some fascinating material about Constantine Valdor that I've really enjoyed. That basically his persona is something that is only presented to external.
Yeah, it's a public-facing persona. Yeah, which I get that.
Yep. To finish off the story, we find Diocletian coming to the actual resting place of the God Emperor. Not the Golden Throne, not the thing that is, that worshippers would come to, that's through the main door, the giant eternity gate that's blocked, past the silver gate into the throne room. It's a portrayal of the Emperor that was presented back in first edition 40K, covered in like wires and IV bags and standing upright, and is just this horrific corpse.
Yeah.
Let me try and find the scene because I really like this.
Yeah, I did like that. What I feel like you can get from a custodian is a more real view of what the Emperor looks like on the Golden Throne, that even for Primarchs, they see what he wants them to see, right? And he doesn't do that for custodians, so they get to see the Emperor on the throne.
Each breath he takes draws the scent of the throne into his body, a stinging reek of overworked metal, unable to entirely mask the fainter smells of alchemical solution and biological waste. Beneath it all, and worst of all, is a wisp of decay. Diocletian rests his spear before the God Emperor's feet, and he asks his question, "My king, do you dream?" Fascinating story.
Yeah. It was definitely a change of perspective on the Emperor, on the throne room, on how custodes interact with each other.
Yes.
I enjoyed it.
So,
I also say custodes.
overall rating.
Ooh, that's hard in an anthology. I think I would give it an overall 5.
Yeah?
There are individual stories I would give a 10 to,
Yep.
but like together, there's a lot of fluff in there for me.
I would give it a 6.
Okay, I wasn't that far
No,
off.
you were not. So for me, there are 3 or 4 either boring or meaningless stories. One all right story with a terrible ending. One Haley story that does what Haley does best. One's very solid Chris Wright story. And an Aaron MC Bowden story with, I mean, I don't want to call it fan service, but he is answering a lot of common questions here.
Yeah, okay.
6 out of 10.
6 out of 10, I feel like is solid and fair.
Yep.
What is next for us?
So up next, we are finishing off Dawn of Fire with the Silent King.
It's exciting.
Yeah?
We're halfway.
Yeah, we've been listening to the audio version of it. Well, you'll see our thoughts on that eventually.
Yeah.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.